So if you've been following the president election cycle in the US, the primary cycle for the Democrats, which I have been, among other things that I'm working on, obviously, one thing that I've noticed is that they're ignoring the sole person of color candidate on the stage pretty much as possible. And it kind of offends me because, he is a strong candidate. He answers questions directly and he's more honest and sincere and direct and, than anybody else on the stage. Yet they go out of their way to just, minimize his presence, which I find to be personally an insult because I find him to be an incredibly good role model and just really a great person for people of color who have had, of any sort of background, immigrants or non, who have had multiple struggles to go through in order to just like make their progress happen. Somebody that they can really look up to and really learn from his mistakes and what he's seen and what he's experienced and stuff like that. Those are the kind of person that I want my kids, my cousins, people in the same or similar background or something who have a diverse background that creates certain complications for them to learn from, and they completely they go out of their way to ignore him entirely, which really kind of offends me because it almost seems as if that side of the coin, that side of the political spectrum only likes people of color when they're helping them, when they're downtrodden, when they're looking to them, and when there's somebody that's actually an evidence of their success that's doing well. Especially without their help, they prefer to completely ignore that person. That's really kind of a problem. And because how are you going to have these people thriving if once they are thriving, and especially if they do so without being in a certain clique, they're just going to be completely ignored because all of a sudden they become a threat or something? I mean, that must be what it is. I really don't understand the tendency to just blatantly dismiss somebody. In fact, one of the commentators who listened attributed one of his according to a YouTube comment, attributed one of his jokes to Elizabeth Sanders instead of to Andrew Yang himself, which is an insult. And, that's something that as a person of color that you deal with all the time, that if a person of color does something, that they'll just attribute to someone that they feel more comfortable just acknowledging, which is disturbing. And I feel like if the Democratic Party wants to stand for what they say they stand for and be who they say they are, then they need to behave better. I really, I'm really surprised. And there's really no explanation for it, honestly. I've never seen this before. I've been watching, these debates here and there for, multiple cycles. After all, I'm not, a 20-something-year-old. I've seen a number of election cycles, and I've never seen that before, and it's really kind of unfortunate. And I think that his position and his work and deserves more respect, and his presence deserves more acknowledgement because people need to see that. If the other candidates on stage and they feel like the people that they're appealing to don't need to see it, well, I think that young people of color and adults in the U.S. need to see it. And if that's who the Democrats say they stand for, well, then they should, put their money where their mouth is and be more sincere. At this point, it just seems they're completely, they're trampling upon who they say they support because it becomes a game of, when you're down, then it gives them something to say they stand for, to say they support you. But when the person starts rising, then they want to step on top of them because they actually don't want the person to rise at all. They just want to leverage their unfortunate situation for their benefit. It becomes that sort of thing. And that's a problem, and that needs to stop.